You're listening to the AFTERBUZZ TV network. Now, the largest new media platform on the web and your #1 source for after-show entertainment.
Very good, Keith. Johnson.
From the AFTERBUZZ Studios in Los Angeles, California, presented by Maria Menounos and Bing.com, and streaming live thanks to Akamai Technologies, this is AFTERBUZZ TV's Revenge After Show. We'll break down tonight's episode and get you all the latest news and gossip. If you'd like to buzz in on tonight's show, you can buzz us at 424-256-1729. That's 424-256-1729. And now, another post-game wrap-up show for your favorite TV show. It's AFTERBUZZ TV's Revenge After Show.
I love that theme song. Welcome, everybody. Bing is for doing, and we're here doing Revenge, Season 2, Episode 2, called Resurrection. I am Phil Svitek, joined alongside this week once again by
Katherine Tulich. Hi.
Welcome back, Katherine.
Thank you, Phil.
And special hosting tonight, Anna Koppel, stepping in for one night.
Thank you, Anna. You may remember Anna from Season 1. She filled in every now and then, and she's filling in tonight for Gabby. So we're excited to have her. She's going to bring a lot.
Phil, I'm really excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
As always, let's open up with the quotes and then kind of get into the episode. Again, the title of the episode is Resurrection. For those of you that believe in resurrection, death is inconsequential. It's not an ending, but rather a new beginning, a second chance, a reunion. The later quote in the episode is, the very idea of resurrection is so seductive, it's easy to forget. Before you can rise from the dead, you have to spend a few days in hell.
Can I just say, first of all, I love the fact that they use the In Excess song, Never Tear Us Apart, under that quote. So,
yeah, that was...
So just, for the Aussie, I just wanted to say thank you.
That is a very good song.
It's a great song, yeah.
And the song's Head Over Heels, for those of you who don't know, Head Over Heels. But obviously tonight was all about resurrection, people coming back, quote, from the dead or not being in dead. And just, yeah, very interesting.
Well, obviously setting up that, the mother is imminent. I think she's going to be coming back very shortly, don't you feel like? That Emily's mother will be appearing. And at the moment, we've just seen her in flashbacks.
That's right. And I think the greater thing too is it's not only people, but all the same problems are coming back in various different forms. But we're kind of dealing with the same things in a new way.
Well, and they did mention that there's a reunion, second chances and reunions, right, for those who believe in a resurrection. So there's definitely a lot of those happening as well.
Yeah, I mean, it reminded me exactly of, now we're kind of, as I said, last episode was kind of hitting the reset button. Now we're again bringing everyone back together. I mean, just the fact that everyone's in that house later on in that episode, Emily, Conrad, Victoria, Daniel, Ashley, Charlotte.
Ugh, gross.
The only thing you're missing is Lydia.
Yeah.
Do you think Lydia will ever return? I think she's dead.
Who knows? I mean,
yeah, who knows? Resurrection, who knows?
She might. But I want to talk about first kind of a plot line that was not in keeping with this. It was a little strange, at least initially, and that's Trey and our boy Declan, and kind of what their deal going on. Obviously, Trey's kind of there to see about Charlotte and get an update from that. And then as through their kind of weird meeting, Trey realizes, you know what, I can use this guy for this, because obviously he's in desperate need of money. And where that's going, I have no idea. So I'd love to get your take on that.
Well, I also think it's also what I felt too is Declan still kind of wants to be in that world, because, there's that scene where Trey says, why don't you come and party, that he's offering him, and he says, I can't, I've got to go back to the bar. So I think there's always enticement for Declan to be in that other world.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's obviously attraction for him to this Trey of like, why would he go along with what Trey's asking?
Declan also has this resentment about it, though. He definitely was offended that Trey's offering him $500 to hold on to this bracelet.
Yeah, I feel like Declan always wants to earn the money, but he's upset whenever he does earn it. I mean, from clearly what Revenge has laid out in all these scenarios, there is no clean way to make a lot of money, or at least attain what he wants. And so every time he's offered money, it's in the most, grossest way. I mean, Victoria trying to pay him off to never date Charlotte again.
Right.
Yeah.
That is one example. But in terms of Trey, I feel like the moment it hit him was when Declan said, "Yeah, I wouldn't be. My life does suck."
Right.
So now I feel like this guy's just going to use him for everything.
Right.
Whatever that may be.
He's also feeling like a burden on Jack at the moment. So, and Jack sort of made a comment. He said to Jack, "I'll get out of here. I'm the burden on you. I'll get out of here as soon as I get some money together." And Jack sort of said, "So not anytime soon."
But let me ask you this: do you guys really think that Declan feels like a burden to Jack, or is Jack just so pathetic? As we were talking about last episode, is he just so pathetic that he doesn't want to be around this?
Well, I feel like somehow Declan's kind of stepping up as almost being the older brother, even though he's not the older brother. Because if you sort of think in the beginning, Jack was very much kind of trying to look after Declan, and Declan's becoming kind of his conscience, was questioning about, Amanda, about the pregnancy, about, so I feel like Declan's really matured in many ways, and almost like becoming the one that's kind of stepping back and looking at, is this the right thing? Is this, you sure about this? I mean, that's my feeling with how his relationship has kind of changed a bit. I don't know if he feels like a burden, but I feel like it's almost like he's feeling like now he's kind of helping his older brother.
Well, he said I don't know if he used the word burden, but he said something along those lines. But it's chaotic in there, let's face it. I mean, there's, water is all over the place, and the pipes aren't working, and Amanda's shown up and she's pregnant, and and they're broke, and it's chaos in there, so I'm sure he wants to get out of there also.
I think for me, he really wants to get out of there, and just the fact that he's trying to take care of this business, but Jack's not even doing that.
That's what I'm saying.
Right.
He's kind of stepped in as sort of the one looking after things now, feeling real responsible for it now.
Yeah, but it's also clear that he's just incompetent.
Yeah.
No matter what he does.
Do you remember what I'm talking about, though? He said something to Jack towards the end of the episode. He's like, "It's clear that I'm the one that..."
I remember that, but I think it's more of a matter of he may be thinking it, but as an audience, we know it's not true. Deep down, he looks at his brother as pathetic. I mean, sometimes we realize these things, and he might actually have it realized and just be saying something nice to Jack to not hurt his feelings.
Right.
So I think it's more of a case of that.
Fair enough.
Speaking of Jack and Amanda, what a twist. Did we, I know we had multiple theories last week. Did we, what consensus did we as a team come up with? Was it Takeda's, or was it, none of us thought it was Jack's, right?
No, we thought it was something, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so quite an interesting twist that we did find out it was actually Jack's. And it just got, what I love about this show is that, the one thing that Jack has always wanted was Amanda, and ultimately it's the worst thing for him. At least in this context.
Well, because it's not the real Amanda that he doesn't know that, right?
Yeah.
Right. Why is Emily punishing her?
By not telling her the truth.
Right, exactly. And she's not going to come clean with Jack. So, and I don't know if I'm skipping around on topics. I don't think I am, but she's punishing Charlotte now too. She's bringing Charlotte into it and saying, "Oh, let me let your sister tell you about this." And it's really dark.
It is. What I think she by withholding this truth, she can manipulate Amanda. I mean, that's what she's always
got more
done.
Power, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Amanda's feeling, because Amanda thinks that it's not really Jack's baby. She's feeling that she's carrying on a lie, which makes her more vulnerable, right? I would think. And so Emily's maintaining power over her by letting her believe that it's a lie. Otherwise, she doesn't. And I guess it's a little bit of like, she doesn't want them to be happy, let's face it.
Right.
I mean, she really doesn't want them to be, have the happy ending. I mean, she's in love with him, but she can't admit it.
Yeah, I mean, and ultimately it could be, you know, let's say Emily wants a happy ending, and it can get to a point in her mind, at least, where she confronts Jack and Amanda, and it's like, all right, Amanda, tell him the truth.
Yeah.
And Amanda would have to admit, yeah, you know what, it was fixed, you know, and so that's what she's hoping for ultimately. And, you know, sometimes if you live a lie long enough, you start to believe it. So, you know, in Emily's case, it might be like, okay, you know what, it really wasn't Jack's baby. So that's what I think. But I like...
Right.
It's getting extra revengey. I don't know.
Well, I like Nolan's term for Emily. So, what do you got today, Revenger?
Revenger. I know.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
And later on, he says, "That's dark even for you."
Yeah, that's
great
what I'm
lines.
saying. Yeah, it was super dark.
Well, I forget what interview I heard this on, but it was like, you know, the crime has to fit the punishment, which is what Emily obviously says today. But that's from the writer's perspective. They said that's always been the goal that they've had to reach with every one of these things. Is that, you know, how do you take it to the next level? And that's why Emily is a little bit darker, is because the crime has to fit the punishment. So, to backtrack just a little bit, since we all thought it was kind of Takedo's guy, I want to talk about, you know, Takedo and the kind of plot. Before we get too deep into it, I want to tie in the quote I know one of our fans wrote, and I thought it was kind of interesting of what he said, and it's a theory. I think it's the first one.
Yes, this has to do with Takeda.
Yes, go ahead and read that one.
I think Emily had, for some reason, repressed the memories of the asylum and was unlocking them during the task she was doing with Takeda. As she said to Nolan after that, when they got back to the house, in the asylum, I remembered something, which led her to research the Angel of Mercy, which led to them going to check it out. Was that clear?
Yes, it was. I don't think that was the one,
Right.
but a fan wrote that in. So so although that wasn't the one I was going for right now, it's a perfect example. Might as well segue into this. It's a perfect example of, again, what we're doing here at AFTERBUZZ TV. We want to start the conversation for you guys and kind of let you know our thoughts and opinions, but we really love hearing from you to kind of make it a community rather than us talking at you. And so I really like that you guys kind of brought that in perspective. There's another one that I want to bring in later that also deals with Takedo, and kind of it's an interesting theory. I'm going to dispute that theory, but it's a very interesting theory nonetheless. So again, for you guys listening or watching, please rate and comment on iTunes. Let us know your thoughts. And again, we love bringing this stuff up. So we love your theories, for better or worse. And you know what? We'll cop to it if we're wrong and you're right.
We will.
You know?
And tell a friend.
And tell a friend. But in terms of Takedo, I thought it was really interesting how he was at the board meeting today. Takedo's guy.
Aiden.
Aiden.
Yeah. Yes.
Aiden Mathis?
Yeah, or Matthias. Mathis?
Mathis. I saw it on IMDb. Listen, we might not be able to spell here, guys, but Aiden it is.
Aiden it is.
Yes.
What you guys decipher from kind of his re-entry back into this world, and obviously following Emily being at the board meeting, was that just kind of more of a sign of him kind of getting acclimated to the environment, the setting, so that way he can help Emily? And if so, what did he gain by seeing Conrad? What would have been his perspective by seeing Conrad and Daniel fight?
Well, first I want to be clear about something. Last week, he sort of had to convince Takeda, right? Like, I can do it this time, or I can let me go. And so just to be clear on that, what he benefits by seeing Conrad and Daniel interact is the same thing that Emily benefits by being engaged to Daniel. I mean, as much as you can infiltrate this family, is the more successful you're going to be taking them down or
Now, let me ask you this: was he on the board as a representative for Takeda? Because that was the biggest interesting part of it. They're talking about, I forget the quote exactly, but it was like, okay, you got us investments by falling down, or such a good quote.
Going down, you'll build wings on the way or something.
Yeah, you built wings on the way on falling or something like that. And obviously, then they brought in Takeda, how it's kind of his investment. But they're, of course, lying on the ROIs because in reality, they're, as Daniel found out, the bank accounts don't actually match the statements on those. So is he kind of also representing Takeda at that moment in terms of the investments and seeing what's going on?
So we're assuming they've just met him, or he's had some prior relationship with the Graysons?
I don't know. And maybe that's, if you can answer that I'm open to it. I'm
going to bring in this other fan quote at this moment. I think it's relevant.
Sure.
What if David Clark wasn't so innocent? Why did he move to the Hamptons right next to the Graysons and got a job working for them, and then also started having an affair with Victoria and tried to tear their family apart by leaving with her? Plus, at the same time, everything with the plane happened, which would have sent Grayson to jail forever. What if Takeda is so invested in Emily because he also trained David Clark to get revenge on the Graysons for whatever reason?
Interesting theory.
Yeah.
So that it's actually now into a second generation. It's kind of...
Right. Yeah. So if it is Takeda's guy, then, I mean, maybe he has all kinds of fingers in the pie, whatever, so, trying to take the Graysons down.
So we're assuming Takeda was actually involved with David Clark. Is this what this theory is presenting, sort of basically, that it goes beyond, way before Emily?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it essentially assumes that David Clark wasn't, in everything that we've thus seen, David Clark was just a pawn. Yeah. And he wasn't an assertive guy. He was just passive. That assumes that he was always an active character who seemed passive. That's
an interesting theory.
It is definitely very interesting. Yeah. I disagree with it because I think, I don't know, I just think, and unless you guys say that it isn't too far-fetched, I feel like with any TV show, any kind of theory that's just so beyond what the show has presented never turns out right. And I feel like, of course, expectations and things like that, there is a way to play it where good TV shows obviously aren't exactly what you expect, but they're certainly not the total opposite of, in terms of believability or what could have happened, or presenting kind of conspiracy theories. Right. Although everything in this is, in many ways, is a conspiracy theory, but I don't think it's that far beyond. Unless you guys actually think that it is, then you know what?
Well, it sort of blows the whole idea of revenge, doesn't it? It's sort of then, I don't know. I think it's a stretch, but it's an interesting theory.
Here's the biggest thing for me that I realized today. Obviously, Michael Kelly, the creator, he's always cited Alexander Dumas's what's the story? The one with
the
Count of Monte Cristo.
That's what this is based on.
Yeah, the Count of Monte Cristo.
Yeah.
And with that story, I think it was more clearly laid out for readers in terms of dramatic irony of understanding what it was in terms of what the events prior had been, and what the truth is in essence. Whereas here, the thing that we don't have is we don't have the truth.
Right.
And I think that's a big thing. We just don't have the truth as an audience member.
Right.
So, and that's why ultimately I disagree with that one.
That's fair.
And hopefully my argument makes some sense to viewers. But I mean, do you guys agree? And if so, why? If not, why?
Well, I've never considered that as a theory. I mean, it's just sort of when I'm presenting to me, thinking, okay, well, maybe David Clark wasn't as innocent. I mean, maybe there is more involvement than we know, but I don't think ultimately he'd be a bad guy. I mean, I think that would ruin sort of the setup of the show if we sort of found out that he was, that after all this time he was a bad guy.
That is actually a very good point. That would ruin it. And not only that, it would also, Victoria would just be ultimately more eviler.
I brought this up last season that I don't really think there's a clear protagonist-antagonist in the show, because everybody is really kind of not a good guy, including Emily. And I don't think that it would be, if this is the case, that David Clark turns out to not be a good guy, and she's been seeking revenge for a not good guy. Well, you know, she hasn't been a good girl either. So I don't think it's the craziest theory.
But she's been driven not to be a good girl because of the wrong that's been done.
Right. Right.
So if it wasn't a wrong, then it would sort of negate that idea that she was driven to this.
I mean, I get it. I personally don't think that there's a clear, like, good guy, bad guy in the show.
Here's what I will agree with. I will agree with half of it, and it's this part. You know, there is a possibility that Takeda could have been manipulating David Clark into this, and I'm going to bring in Nolan as an example in today's episode. You know, when he's picking out a CFO, right? And they're having the meeting, and she's like, I'm underqualified. You know, why do you want me to do this? He says, because I want a partner. Wait, I want a partner I can control. You know, so basically, and that's the way Emily's treating Nolan.
Yeah.
And in theory, it could be the way Takeda was treating David Clark, and it's certainly the way Conrad's treating everybody in his life. Poor Daniel is still.
Oh, Daniel.
Oh my goodness. But that's what it seems like. Everyone's kind of always seemingly a step above, and where does, you know, you can't really say follow it down the rabbit hole because it just goes, you know, whatever the interpretation of going up would be. You know, everyone's just always above someone, and it seems like where's the truth lie, ultimately?
Yeah, just with the Nolan thing, what do you think? It was interesting that we sort of seeing his company and we brought this character in. I mean, why do you think they're now bringing this up? Because he has been, for the most part, we know he is running this incredible company and that, but we haven't seen much evidence of it. We haven't seen who's been working with him. Suddenly there's issues now with his company and he's being audited. And why do you think this whole element's been brought in now? And he makes that statement to Emily too about, you know, don't think I'm just your good-looking, fashionable tech guy that, you know, to be at your beck and call. Like, is he not looking after his own business? Is that sort of what's kind of indicating as well, that he's been ignoring kind of his thing just to follow this path with Emily?
It could be, and you know, think about it. He's being audited. Where did his money come from to kind of start the business? Right? It was David Clark.
Right.
So, for me, at least, I think there's a time. I think that'll be the big thing this season, maybe half a season, however long it goes to. But you know, I think someone has it out for Nolan. They may know, they may or may not know the involvement with him and Emily and whatever, but they're out to get him. And I think it's going to be bad. And I don't know if Nolan's aware of that, and maybe that's why he is setting up Padma to do this or not. I don't know, but that's my theory.
And we don't know whether Padma is on his side or actually conspiring against him at this point.
Who knows?
Who knows, yes.
You know, as he says, you're being insubordinate, and yet he wants to control her. Very interesting, you know, and I don't know how he's going to be able to turn that around, but if he really thinks about it, you're trying to control an insubordinate person.
Right.
Or at least who you've labeled as insubordinate.
I don't think she's going to be controlled somehow.
I don't think so either. Anna, do you think so?
Well, I have news and gossip on it, so.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, we'll get to that later in the show. Well, let's talk about Daniel kind of stepping up in this episode. And I really feel for Daniel. He's trying to become an active person in all of this and trying to figure out the truth. And he's always just 10 steps behind.
I know.
He's pretty.
But
dumb and pretty, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Dumb and pretty.
Yeah.
But how does he rise in the ranks to sort of attain some truth in all of this?
I don't think, let's not underestimate him. I think we're starting to see something here where he's actually trying to figure things out. I mean, amongst this web of lies and deception that he's unbelievable parents spin constantly. I actually think we're seeing, I felt like tonight's show we saw the beginning of Daniel starting to, I think he might surprise us. I'm not saying I know anything other than I think he's not going to end up being the wimp that we've been seeing up till now.
Well,
I think he's starting to feel like he's got to take some control. He's starting to figure out how bad his parents are and how he's got to really, I don't know, I'm hoping that that's what this is leading to.
Yeah, I really like Daniel in this episode, actually. And, so, I mean, change doesn't happen overnight. So, I mean, he still had some missteps. But, I really like that. And, you know, again, this is all, there's so much manipulation. But, you know, Emily puts the phone call into him and says, I've been looking into Dr. Jeffrey Thomas, who is Charlotte's doctor at the rehab, and sort of slips that information to him, but he takes it and he sees that this is a bad guy, and right away goes to save Charlotte, and overcompensates and hands her all of his money and the house, and Ashley was not happy about that. But I like that he stepped up and was like, listen, I'm going to right this wrong, and this is the right thing to do, and I don't know where he gets that from, because that's certainly not an example that either of his parents have demonstrated for him his entire life. But I like that he's sort of figuring out the difference between right and wrong, and not just waiting for one of his parents to manipulate him into what should be done next.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because it seemed like he was going the way of his dad there for a while.
Right.
And I feel like this episode we've seen now a change in direction. He's not going to be another Conrad. He actually does want to be a better man, I think.
Right.
Well, a few things for me. They've multiple times said that, at least the actor, that with his character, he's gonna start to kind of figure out, and he's gonna become a revenger in his own right. So that's not really a spoiler, at least hopefully not. And I think he's starting to do the right thing, because if you go back to, I think it's the penultimate episode of season 1, where Emily admits to him that she cheated, and he kind of asks her why. Or I forget how it goes to this, but it's essentially, she says, "You're becoming a Grayson."
Yes, that's right.
So you're becoming a Grayson, and ultimately, I think, he was always trying to choose, like, should I go with my mother? Should I go with my father? And even tonight's episode, he's kind of going back with the mother, because, he says to Charlotte, Mom said I should always be nice to you. And he tried to go that way because obviously Mom was dead and Conrad was so evil. But now that he sees both parents together, I think he's going to go against the Conrad way, maybe start to listen to Emily more and go Emily's way, which obviously isn't good either, at least for him.
Yeah.
But that's how I think that's going to play, or mentally what's kind of going through his process.
Yeah.
So.
He seems really, well, I think he still is in love with Emily. I think he got together with Ashley is just kind of like a screw you move, because he was hurt. And maybe actually, now that I think about it, as a manipulation on Conrad's part, since Ashley and Conrad are clearly working together.
Yes.
But he took that call from Emily today when he was in his office, and Ashley's sitting on his desk, and he's like, "I need to take this." And Phil, you and I kind of talked about, did Ashley see if that was Emily calling? Not really sure, but
Yeah, I mean, it seemed like the phone was pretty unexposed, but I don't know. You thought no. I thought 60% yes.
But
I did think she would have mentioned it to Conrad when she said, "I tried to distract him." Don't you think she might have said that he got a call from Emily, if she actually saw that it was a call from Emily?
I don't know. But she did seem suspicious, especially because he said you close the doors behind you.
Yeah.
So she definitely is suspicious. And, but Daniel does seem to, despite Emily cheating on him, it seems like Daniel still really feels like he can trust her.
Yes.
He trusts her judgment. He trusts, and she showed up at the rehab, and, he kind of mouthed the words "thank you" to her.
Yeah.
So he's, grateful for her help. And he said, "You've been a good friend to the family, and especially to Charlotte." And so he seems really grateful that she's still there.
But do you think that's part of Emily's manipulation to sort of make...
Well, obviously.
Let Daniel think that she's this woman that still cares?
But for Daniel, his experience is that, he misses her, he's glad she's there, and feels like he can trust her.
Here's why I think ultimately Daniel, I don't think we will see Daniel's kind of rise to whatever you would want to call it, is because he feels so much guilt now because of his heroism as we're complimenting him on, but then Conrad throws it all away because, I was doing this to try to save your mother.
Well, the lies that those two parents spin. I mean, by the end of the show, I was like going, "Oh, those poor kids." I mean, seriously, they just have the lies that they spin to these kids.
Well, let's talk about kind of Victoria's plan of and then let's start off with Charlotte and that plan. So the plan was to get new IDs, get the inheritance, and get out of here.
Yeah.
And live a quiet life, or do something.
Doubt that.
Do something.
Do you think that was her plan, just to go off on an island somewhere and disappear?
No.
No.
but it was certainly to get Conrad, get rid of Conrad in her life and bring Conrad down.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Unless you guys disagree.
You think bringing Conrad down was part of the plan? It wasn't just to get out of the country with Charlotte and now they'll
I
have
can't
money.
imagine she was just going to kick up her heels on a tropical island. She had more, even, I think there was something going on. Even if they were going to leave the country, she was going to be pulling strings from wherever she was, trying to manipulate him or trying, like I said, there had to be an agenda. There wasn't just take the inheritance and disappear with her daughter.
She hates him too much to just let it go.
Yeah, because here's the thing, too. I mean, if you think about it, as Charlotte pointed out, she was very upset that there was no money, that Charlotte did not have the money.
Right.
Well, if you wanted to just go off and live in Panama by, you could feasibly do it with no money and start a new life for yourself and somehow be able to live. Now, granted, you're not going to have the Hampton house, but you were never going to have that to begin with.
And I love the way Charlotte said money's not, like, she was like, what's the problem with no money? Like, she's so sort of sweet about that. It's like, that's not the important thing, money. And yet Victoria straight away is like, trinkets, what am I going to do with this?
How much were those trinkets worth?
I know, hey, I'm sure.
What do we got in there?
Trinkets,
500,000?
Trinkets and tiaras. We're not going to live on that. I know, that was so funny.
I'm watching this. I'm like, I have bad credit. Can I have some of that?
But, and just poor Charlotte. I mean, does Charlotte still love her mom now? Especially, well,
she thinks she was doing her a favor, like she tricked her again, thinking that all this was some kind of plan for her better good. So.
But then again, as we were just mentioning, I mean, by the end of the episode, she's feeling for Victoria because, it was the last payment to, quote, get her out of there. Yeah. Which it wasn't, but
but I mean, I think also a big theme of this tonight's show is the fact that about mother, and you need your mother no matter what. And I think Charlotte says that, I need my mother.
She did
and
say
I mean,
that.
this whole mother theme obviously is very important also to Amanda / Emily. This whole thing of like, you need your mother, whether she's bad person, whether she's crazy, whether she's, I think there's a big thing about mother, and that was mentioned so many times tonight about, how important mother is, and, so I think that's the other thing. It's like, your mother is so important, and, poor Charlotte is desperate for this relationship with her mother at whatever cost it is, and obviously now Emily / Amanda is searching for this relationship with her mother too.
And I think also it goes beyond that. Like, if you really think about the scene with young Emily and her mother, she was saying, well, I thought Daddy said you were sick. Oh, no, I'm better because I'm with you.
Yeah.
And then if you also think about Charlotte looking at Amanda and now with the baby, and that's kind of also a fabrication. It's okay, who do you ultimately believe? And even family is just built upon lies.
Yeah.
All the,
it's a mess.
The Clark family, the Grayson family, just all lies.
Yeah.
And who do you ultimately believe? Do you believe your mother? Do you believe your father?
But it's still that search for connection, isn't it? Even the way Charlotte was so excited about the idea of being an aunt, it's connection. It's a search for family and real connection amongst this, very...
Right.
Yeah.
Right. There was in the preview for next week, somebody said she faked her own kidnapping. Do you remember who said that? I feel like it might have been Daniel.
I don't know. I mean, think about the preview of last week said, like, hey, you've only got 30 seconds to make a choice, otherwise it could cost your life, or whatever it said, right? And it was Victoria over the phone. And we thought it was to Emily because she wanted to kill Emily. But in today's episode, obviously, that's to Conrad. Right. So they just cut it in so many different ways.
Yeah.
You don't know what I don't know.
I know.
I take the previews with a grain of salt.
All right.
Exactly.
Somebody knows.
But then what's interesting is that now the way it happened, now Conrad and Victoria are, for better or worse, back together. And obviously they've got their own agendas and they've got to play chess against each other. But the lie is built upon the fact that they're now always been together.
Yeah, really, for better or for worse. Can you, like, honestly, in that marriage? So Emily has that all on tape now too.
She does. And now I want to table this with you guys. I know we talked about it a little bit before we went on air. But it is my theory that Nolan doesn't actually know that Conrad is the one who hit Victoria. And you guys tried to dispute me.
I I assumed that he saw that tape later. I mean, but I might be wrong because he didn't see it, obviously, because he was absent, and then he apologised to not being on his game to see it. But I assumed that he watched it later. That was just my assumption. That
I think,
yeah.
Go ahead. No,
yeah,
go ahead.
no, that's. But you don't think he saw that.
My theory is that, because you guys were saying, well, he talked about certain events. Well, yeah, Victoria being back and supposedly the gray-haired man, hurting her. She could have filled it. That's.
Wouldn't you just rewind the tape and have a look?
Yeah.
Well, but think about it. He was now with Emily, and so Emily has control over the rewinding of the tape, and it could be something that Emily doesn't want rewound because it's information that she could use, and it's.
Yeah, but I feel like they watched it together.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
They watched. They watched the kind of interrogation part of it, where Conrad was already in there, and the cops busted through. They watched that part together. But it wasn't him hitting her.
Okay.
And Emily always likes to hide things from Nolan.
But why would she? Yeah. What would be the point of hiding that from Nolan?
I don't know. Well, why didn't she tell him? She told him to leave, and she didn't tell him who was coming.
Oh well.
I mean.
But that's a little different. I mean, that was kind of, he probably wouldn't have approved of her little setup with the white-haired man.
I don't know. I can't understand this woman. Yeah, you could be right, Phil. They watched the video together. I thought that they watched that part, but you're right. It was just the interrogation. So
hey, I could be wrong. Let us know. I could be wrong. But again, I just think it's ultimately interesting how Conrad and Victoria are in this alliance, and yet they're so not because they want to kill each other.
Yes. But they're so well suited for each other. I mean,
you gotta love that scene where he says, "You can hit me."
Nothing would make me
happier. Yes.
I can't, and I'm gonna say this because I really love the show. But if this was a cable show, I wonder if they would have shown him hitting her and just how. I mean, if there was any sympathies towards Conrad, which I really hope there isn't from fans, but if there was any, there certainly wouldn't after that and him hitting her.
But she basically told him that he had to do everything that she ordered him to do, or she was going to haunt him for the rest of his life. I mean, that conversation when she announced that she was still alive, she was basically telling Conrad, you have to do every single thing that I tell you to do, which was including the setup of the hit.
Yeah.
Yeah. But he loved it. Come on.
Yeah.
Oh, he absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
But, I mean, again, part of the brilliance of tonight's episode is I love seeing from that moment and then just add it to how they played it later on of just being in cahoots, and him having total sympathy for her, hey, I was really trying to get the ransom money and all this, and just they just know how to manipulate.
Yeah.
And just they're obviously they're very good actors within the show, but their characters are amazing actors to the world.
Right. It comes really naturally to them at this point.
Yeah.
To just lie. Well, so then Aiden shows up again to save Emily.
Yes, because he's been keeping tabs on her. And what was the point for the gray-haired man to kill Emily? I mean, it's obvious. From the simplistic way, it's just she knows too much, and by getting rid of her, he'll have killed
another loose end. A loose end's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah. I sort of, because she was willing to give him what he needed to. Basically, she was going to give him the tape, right, which would exonerate him.
Right.
So, and then was it because she wants to know too much about her mother? I mean, is that the reason he felt that he had to get rid of her?
I think ultimately
because she knows she's going to keep digging. There's obviously many secrets there with the mother.
He must be responsible for the mother's death.
No, the mother's not.
Yeah, that's right.
She's not
the
dead.
disappearance. Disappearance,
yes.
I think ultimately the answer lies in who he's working for. And it could be Victoria, but it doesn't seem like it. Could be Conrad. Certainly doesn't seem like it. No. So there's a higher power. And who knows? It could even be Takeda.
Guys, what if it's Declan? What if Declan's masterminding this whole thing?
I mean,
that might be a bit of a stretch.
That would be a little bit of a stretch.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Is he just sort of now a rogue, not a rogue agent, but sort of like everyone he's worked for has kind of backstabbed him in a way, you know, if he was working for Victoria and she back. I mean, you know, do you think maybe he was just trying to look after his own skin at this point?
I think he's certainly looking after his own skin, but ultimately there is someone he has an alliance with. So I think, and not because, again, they may have drawn it out in the sand, so to say, but just ultimately, I think, even though he seems emotionless, he's gravitating towards something, someone he respects. I mean, I don't know. It seems like the way the show's structured, everyone has an alliance with everyone.
Right.
You know, so I think for me, it's a little too far-fetched for him not to be with someone. So yeah. And then obviously Aiden comes in, and that's what we're left with.
So the white-haired man, his name is Federal Agent Gordon Murphy. Learned that tonight.
But that was what he assumed. That was that he just assumed
it was
that.
fake. It was a fake name.
Of course, it was fake.
Yeah, that was a setup to try and get information out of Amanda's mother.
I'm so easily fooled, you guys.
I think he has assumed many identities. We just know him as the white-haired man.
I mean, just think about it. He was able to bring Victoria new identities. I'm sure he can find himself one.
I think he had many identities.
That's silly. Yeah, you're right.
But unless you guys have anything to add, you know, I think it's safe to move on to news and gossip.
AfterBuzz TV News.
All right, who wants to start? I know we've got... how about I start? And then, Katherine, you can go with yours. For those of you who listened to last week's episode, we want to thank you because obviously we said, you know, that we post the Emmys video online, and we've gotten a lot of good responses for that. It's... and I only know Emily Van Camp's real name. I don't know Daniel's real name.
Josh Bowman.
There you go.
Or Bowman.
You know, so Katherine got some video of these guys, and you know,
people watched it, did they?
People watched it.
Oh no! I'm the new TMZ.
Yes. So for those of you who haven't, check it out. It's what do we got? We got some knocking.
Something.
People trying to get in. People. What do we got? Anyway, if you heard the knocking. 666 is a show that we're doing right after this. It's an ABC show, so it could actually be maybe the host.
Spooky.
It could be, something's going on. Something scary.
666. You mentioned those numbers. You never know what's going on.
Remote control fell.
Oh, there we go. Simple explanation.
The Velcro failed.
Simple explanation enough. All right, Katherine, what do you got this week?
Oh, I just thought we were talking about that. I've just been reading some interviews with some of the cast, and Gabriel Mann was saying he's calling season 2 Mama Drama from Hell, which I thought was very...
I like that.
Yeah, I like that. But one interesting development, because we're talking obviously about, you know, faux Amanda or fake Amanda, whatever we want to call her now, you know, we haven't figured out, obviously, when the real mother comes back, who is she going to think is her daughter? Right? Mm-hmm. So I thought this was interesting because the actress that plays her said she thinks I'm her daughter at least for a while. So I think that's going to be an interesting thing, that the fake Amanda has to also then is going to obviously have to be, the mother has to assume that is her daughter. Emily can't reveal that she's really the daughter. I mean,
it's going to tear Emily apart.
Yes. So I thought that's going to be a very interesting development.
That
will be.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, my turn. Okay, well, spoiler alert. This new accountant that we've been talking about, Padma, there's said to be a romance between she and Nolan,
Nolan is the 3.
On the Kinsey scale.
Yes.
So
which means
we has a fluid.
Right.
We're assuming Nolan, and can I just say Nolan is looking hotter every show.
I don't like the new hair.
Really?
Yeah, but
I don't know. He's just looking so different this season.
FYI, that is not why I watched this show.
But he is.
Where are you, Phil?
I watch it for Emily Van Camp, if nothing else.
I meant on the scale.
I am really noticing Gabriel Mann. I mean, not that I didn't notice him. I always loved his character, but he is just taking on the hot factor so much this time. Yeah. I think.
Well, anyway, I think it's interesting because I've only known him to date boys on the show. So anyway,
I think that's going to change.
It looks like it's going to be. Josh Bowman hates everybody being in his dating business. And last week, ABC overall came in. There's a lot of premieres, obviously. The new fall shows are out. Overall, ABC came in 4th place with 8.368 million viewers. And Revenge took a little bit of a dip. They're down 3% from Moving Nights. Yeah. Just they went down to 3.2 down from 3.3 last year. So not a huge dip, but something to talk about, I guess.
Well, here's the thing, how they'll be able to keep the numbers. And I think if they can keep the numbers, they'll be fine.
Yeah.
Ultimately.
Yeah. They'll be fine. We love this show.
Yeah, and I think, it's unfortunate, but even with psychotic fans, they don't always take that into account. But I feel like The Revenge, it's 8 million strong. Like, I feel like we're psychotic about this show.
Yeah. It's a change of night. I think just give it a little while. I don't know. I don't think they're going to worry too much about those numbers yet.
No. It's 3%. It's not.
And here's the irony.
Yeah.
Like, I know fans of the show, and they're like, "Isn't the show Thursday nights?" I'm like, "No, it's Sunday."
Sunday. That's what I'm saying. People
It was Wednesday.
It was Wednesday. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Here's some news and gossip, if I may.
Yeah.
So the asylum, the interior, that was filmed at my. One of my friend's
house?
No, not my house. Not my house. One of my friend's houses.
Okay.
And I don't know if I'm allowed to reveal the price they paid for that.
Really?
But ironically enough, they actually loved the show, and they gave him a price reduction despite. I won't reveal the number.
Phil told me it was a lot.
It is a lot.
Wow.
And they shot for 4 days there.
Where? Where is it? In LA?
I think it's in like Palm Springs or maybe in LA. He has many houses.
Okay.
But ironically, one of the reasons why I got brought up is we were talking about the Grayson Manor here in LA, and he was saying, "Well, I don't understand why they just wouldn't use that." The Grayson Manor?
Yeah, no.
Owned by the Doheny family?
Yes, I've been there many times. I think it'd be difficulty maybe. Although I don't know if they've been renovating it a lot. There Will Be Blood was shot in there. The famous bowling alley scene was in that mansion. But they
film a lot. They're constantly renovating it. And for those of you who don't know, look up the history. But they've been constantly renovating it. But a lot of films have been there. Dating back to like both the Ghostbusters have been there, like There Will Be Blood. So there was no reason why they couldn't have shot there. So Revenge, if you're listening, go ahead and shoot there. Pretty cool. So that's it from me, unless you guys have anything to add.
I just wanted to mention that I will be talking to Emily Van Camp and Madeline Stowe this week.
So exciting.
Very excited. So I'm actually curious to see what would be the burning question. Either you guys would ask them, or maybe some of our fans would. What would be the question that they would ask them?
That's right. So if you have a question, tweet at AfterBuzz TV. That's at AfterBuzz TV on Twitter. Or if you're not into the Twitter thing like Katherine, email us at info@AfterBuzzTV and let us know your questions. And really let us know what you want to know as fans.
Yeah,
I think that'd be interesting. And, we'll obviously pass that along to Katherine.
Yeah. Do you have a burning question?
I don't know if I'm going to diss our fan. I would like to not discuss the relationship of Emily and Josh. I want to know more about their characters.
I'm talking about characters, not personal stuff.
Talking, okay.
Yeah, I'm not asking about personal questions. I'm not going into...
my questions would be...
I'm not going to ask them about their relationship.
I would love to know the spoilers.
Yeah.
And ultimately my questions would be driven to that. So let me think about my question.
Okay.
Because I want to ask the right question so that I actually get an answer rather than like you'll just have to keep watching her along in that
Exactly,
vein.
which is generally what you get when you ask these actors what's coming up. Ooh, we can't really say.
Yeah. So you know what? I might ask him about the past season, about like a character choice or something like that. So let me think about that.
Okay. Great. Look forward to seeing what people want to know.
Exactly. Yeah. And so that ends our news and gossip for this week. And with that, let's get into next week with our predictions.
And now, your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
Wow, these things are so cryptic.
I don't even know where to start. I'll start.
Go ahead.
I think that Ashley and Conrad are... I'm going to go ahead and say they're just sleeping together.
Oh, I've thought that from last season.
They're way too close.
Yeah, but also that line last week where he said about that at least Ashley didn't cheat on him, and his father went, really? Like,
He's
it was
so
obvious
gross.
That
that
is
they're sleeping together.
That is terrible for a father to sleep with their sons.
He's got
It's
no
Conrad.
conscience.
It's Conrad Grayson. So that, and then, and I think there's going to be some sort of either partnership or romance or something developing between Emily and Aiden.
Obviously, that relationship is going to get a lot stronger, whether it's romantic or whether it's some other way. But obviously, that is going to be a very important relationship.
Yeah.
And you know what's interesting? You know, in terms of, I think, why Padma is here, obviously no one's going to fall in love, and we discussed that. But now Emily has a new partner, Aiden, and now Nolan has a different partner. So they're going to kind of separate for a little bit, I feel.
Yeah, that's what I thought tonight. That's what I was saying about maybe he's realising that he's been on Emily's path for too long. That I think you're right. I think there is a little separation imminent. Yeah. But I'm curious to know, when do you think Emily, the mother, will actually appear in real time? How many more episodes do you think they'll spin this out to? But when will we actually see Jennifer Jason Leigh come into the show?
I think episode 4.
Okay, let's see if you're right.
I think episode 4.
Okay, all right.
Ultimately, and it's going to be really interesting to see the Grayson dynamic now that. But here's what's also interesting. Conrad went to family only. Ashley, get out of here.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting in that sense. And I really want to see what Declan in that storyline where that leads, because that
doesn't look good for Declan anyway.
No.
No, it's Declan's never tried to make a deal with the devil, but I feel like he's always making a deal with the devil's best friend.
Yeah.
If that's the right term. And poor Jack. I feel like Jack's gonna be even worse now that he knows the baby's his. Now, and by knowing kind of Declan wants out of his life, he's just ultimately gonna be crushed.
Yeah.
He's trying to put on a brave face, but it's just not happening.
I know. He's a mess.
Is he gaining weight? I mean, is that like a character?
No, he could be. His face.
He's getting less hot. Well, Nolan's getting hotter.
Right. But I mean, it could be like.
No, well, look at his hair's a little bit longer. I feel like
schlubby.
Yeah,
He's looking schlubby.
Because he doesn't care about himself.
Right, but that could be direction. Gain some weight. Look crummier. You know, you're supposed to be depressed.
No, I agree, and he does look like SHIT.
Yeah, exactly.
Unfortunately, he does.
Yeah.
So ultimately, I feel. Who knows what's going to happen next episode, ultimately. But here's the good news. I do like, again, I'm encouraged by seeing a lot of the fan comments that we're seeing, because you guys do have a lot of great theories. I like seeing that. And especially, we try to think of the episode more so than the predictions, but I'd love to hear the predictions from you guys, because obviously you guys put a lot of time and thought into those. So let us know what you guys predict for next week or ultimately the season. Anna, where can we find you? In the meantime, if fans want to interact.
You can follow me on Twitter at Koppel for Mayor, KOPPELFORMAYOR.
I promise Katherine will get a Twitter.
Maybe by next week, so I can tell you about the interviews.
Okay. And you can follow us here at AfterBuzz TV. And again, let us know your questions for Emily Van Camp and Madeline Stowe, and that's before Thursday?
Wednesday.
That's before Wednesday, so you guys got to get on it before Wednesday, and tell your friends that are fans of the show as well. Email info@AfterBuzzTV or tweet us at AfterBuzzTV. We'll see you next week.
From Bing.com, executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later. Enjoy 666.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.